part of a company that has been with us for decades and has a global footprint. How do you size up the opportunity and the challenge in 2020? You've got a whole week's worth of traction now in this decade. What are some of the key risks and some of the key opportunities that you're looking at?
Thanks. First of all, thanks. What a privilege to be here, and it's so fantastic to see so many of you here with us today. We're 8 days into the new decade, and here we are. What a perfect opportunity to be at CES talking about the fourth industrial revolution. People have been asking me a lot about how we view this new era that we're in. And I've been saying and sharing with folks that you think about the technology that has transformed our consumer lives, the technology that has really altered the way we communicate, how we entertain one another, and that technology is now coming to the built infrastructure that Siemens has been so involved with here in the US for over 160 years.
Yeah, and just a couple examples of what you mean by the built infrastructure. I mean, we all have the computers in our pocket, and I can play with my family's at home in Michigan, and I can play with the thermostat from my smartphone and have all kinds of fun. But in the type of scale in the businesses that you're in, when you start talking about this digital revolution, not just seeping in, but kind of being a wave that overtakes it, what are some of the key products or key ways that we're going to be able to kind of interact with this fourth industrial revolution that Siemens talks about a lot?
Yeah, well, and then let me set the context of the kinds of things we're working on at Siemens. We are experts in energy. We're experts in infrastructure, meaning building, comfort, security, safety. We have a huge presence here today in mobility because we have capabilities for transportation systems, both in building trains themselves, but also all the systems that connect and integrate transportation systems. In manufacturing, you'll find us in both the hardware and the software now, being part of the industrial revolutions that have gone before, now bringing us into the fourth industrial revolution, and in healthcare. So across that broad portfolio, what's happening in the fourth industrial revolution is this opportunity to use data. Siemens has been part of every industrial revolution, from steam to electricity to automation. Now the opportunity we have ahead of us to take data from these many systems that we've been building and experiencing these last many decades, taking data, analyzing that data, aggregating it, learning from it, and then from that, creating new products, new services, even new business models. So I'll give you an example. Think about the way we travel from place to place. And we're all familiar with needing to get a ticket to get on a train, needing to use an app to get a car. We pick up that scooter that'll get us in the last mile. There are so many diverse ways we interact with the transportation system. Siemens in Columbus has delivered the capability to go from point A to point B with a single user interface. And what that's going to do for residents in Columbus is make their lives so much simpler, allowing them to think about...
They don't have to get a ticket and transfers and things like that.
They can do all of that.
Right.
Point to point, they can do all of that from that. Come to our booth. You'll have a chance to see it in real life. But think about every one of those markets that I've shared with you, and you'll realize that every single one is recognizing that harnessing the power of data is going to transform their market overall. And the scary thing here is that there are going to be some folks who get left behind unless they actually get engaged. So that's our focus right now.
I mean, you're dealing with this data collection that every company is dealing with right now. How much data? How do we use it? Where do we store it? Siemens has had some movement along having a charter, basically a covenant with the public, right? I mean, how do you guys view this role that you're in, that you do bring in a lot of data, but you're a steward of that data?
Right. I mean, we've seen this in our consumer lives, right? The number one issue is going to be privacy and security. And so we're already working on that as Siemens with a data charter, last November at the UN's meeting about information security, our CEO, our global CEO, Joe Kaeser, introduced this charter and its 6 tenets. By the way, we believe that those of us in industry really need to be responsible for establishing practices that are going to really respond to our societal needs for security and privacy. And rather than waiting for regulation, we want to be part of the regulatory process. We'd love to see regulatory processes stay lightweight, and then have industries like ours really participate in a leadership role in establishing the norms and what's acceptable. Now, think about the data needs and the data charter that you'd want to establish, and you think first and foremost, a user of data needs to be clear about its intent. We need to be public and open about how we intend to use data. Second, we've got to enforce and actually confirm that the people who produce the systems and the people who produce the data own that data. Then we also have to commit to cybersecurity and the ability to secure data that is entrusted to us. But we also need to establish agreements for collaboration. Co-creation is a hallmark of Industry 4.0, and so it's going to be important for us to see this as part of the charter for control of our data.